The mining station orbited the dead world of Kepler 442c like a metal tick attached to a corpse. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching the planet's scarred surface slowly rotate below. 3 months into her assignment as a communications specialist, and she still couldn't get used to the emptiness of space. Back on Earth, there had always been birds singing, wind rustling through trees, the distant hum of city life. Here, there was only the mechanical breathing of life support systems and the occasional ping of incoming transmissions. "Still homesick, rookie?" Lieutenant Commander Torres appeared beside her, his reflection ghosting across the starfield. At 45, he was old enough to be her father, with the kind of weathered face that spoke of decades spent in the void between stars. Sarah straightened, trying to look professional. "Just checking the long-range sensors, sir. The readings have been fluctuating for the past hour." Torres frowned and moved to the nearby console. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing up a cascade of data. "Show me." Sarah highlighted the anomalies she'd been tracking. "There's something out there, about 2 million kilometers spinward. The signature keeps appearing and disappearing like something's using advanced stealth technology." "Could be a supply ship running late," Torres mused, but his voice carried an edge of uncertainty. Command didn't mention any scheduled arrivals. Before Sarah could respond, the station's emergency klaxons began wailing. Red lights strobed through the corridors as the automated announcement system crackled to life. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Unknown vessels approaching. Estimated time to contact, 14 minutes. Torres was already moving, his training taking over. "Chen, get to the communications center. Try to establish contact with whoever's out there. I'll coordinate with Captain Morrison." Sarah ran through the narrow corridors, her magnetic boots clanging against the metal flooring. The mining station had never been designed for combat. Its shields were meant to deflect asteroid debris, not military-grade weapons. Its crew of 63 included miners, engineers, and support staff, but only a handful of security personnel with basic training. The communications center was a cramped space filled with banks of monitors and transmission equipment. Sarah slid into her chair and began working, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards as she tried to hail the approaching vessels. "Unknown ships, this is Kepler Mining Station Delta 7. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. You are approaching a civilian mining facility." Static answered her. She tried different frequencies, different protocols, even the old emergency channels that hadn't been used in decades. Nothing. "Unknown ships, please respond. We are not a military installation. Repeat, this is a civilian mining facility." Through the porthole beside her workstation, Sarah could see them now. 5 ships, sleek and predatory, emerging from the darkness like sharks, rising from the depths. They were unlike any human vessel she'd ever seen, all curves and organic-looking hull plating that seemed to shift and flow in the starlight. Alien ships. First contact. The moment humanity had been preparing for since they'd first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. But this wasn't the peaceful meeting of civilizations that the diplomats had dreamed about. These ships moved with clear hostile intent, spreading out in an attack formation as they closed the distance to the mining station. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through the intercom. "All hands, prepare for possible boarding action. This is Captain Morrison. We have 5 unidentified alien vessels approaching our position. They have not responded to our communications and are displaying hostile intent. All civilians are to report to the emergency shelters immediately." Sarah's training told her to follow protocol, to gather her emergency kit, and head for the reinforced sections deep in the station's core. But her duty kept her at her post, still trying to establish communication, still hoping that this was all some terrible misunderstanding. The first energy blast lit up space like a miniature sun. The station shuddered as the alien weapons found their mark, overloading the forward shield generators. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "Hull breach on Deck 4, someone reported over the comm system. "Atmosphere containment holding, but we've lost the forward sensor array." More impacts followed. Sarah gripped her console as the station bucked and rolled under the assault. Through her headphones, she could hear the alien ship's transmissions, a complex language of clicks, whistles, and electronic tones. Her computer's translation matrix worked frantically, trying to decode the meaning. Fragments began to emerge. Weak, soft, easy prey, no resistance worthy of... The translation software was crude, designed for basic mathematical and scientific concepts, not military communications. But the contempt in those alien voices was unmistakable. They saw the human station as nothing more than a target, its defenders as insignificant obstacles. "Sarah!" Torres burst into the communications center, his uniform torn and bloodied from flying debris. "We need to evacuate. They're preparing to board." Through the porthole, she could see small craft detaching from the alien ships, moving toward the station's docking bays like a swarm of angry insects. Each one was the size of a shuttlecraft, but armed like a fighter, bristling with weapons and boarding equipment. "The emergency pods are loading now," Torres continued. "We can't fight them off. Our weapons are useless against their shields." Sarah looked at her console, at the endless stream of alien transmissions. "Wait, I'm getting something. The computer's picking up references to hunting, sport. I think they see this as some kind of game." Torres grabbed her arm. "We need to go. Now." But Sarah pulled away, her mind racing. "No, listen to this." She patched the translated fragments through the speakers. The computer's synthetic voice made the alien words even more chilling. "First spawn shows. Fear scent strong. Amusing specimens for the hunt. Young ones will provide entertainment before feeding. Weak bipeds, no claws, no natural armor. Pathetic." The docking bay alarms began screaming as the boarding craft made contact. Through the security feeds, Sarah could see them, the raiders. They were tall and lean, with chitinous exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and their heads were elongated skulls with too many teeth. They moved with predatory grace, their weapons held casually as they cut through the station's defenses. "Look at them," one of the creatures said, the translation echoing through the speakers. "Soft flesh, small claws, walking on only 2 limbs. How did such pathetic beings ever leave their birth world?" The raiders spread through the station methodically, herding the human crew toward the central cargo bay. They weren't killing indiscriminately, Sarah realized. They were capturing them, like hunters collecting trophies. One of the aliens appeared on the security feed from Deck 7, where a group of miners had barricaded themselves in a storage room. The creature examined the makeshift defenses with what could only be described as amusement. "Break down their hiding place slowly," it commanded its companions. "Let them hear us coming. Fear makes the meat more tender." Sarah felt sick. These weren't soldiers or conquerors. They were predators, and humanity was just another prey species to be hunted and consumed. Torres was pulling at her again, but she resisted. "I need to send a message to Earth, to the colony worlds. They need to know what's coming. There's no time." But Sarah was already working, her fingers flying across the emergency transmission controls. She activated the quantum burst communicator, the station's most powerful long-range transmitter. It would drain what was left of their power reserves, but it would get the message across interstellar space in minutes instead of months. "Emergency transmission to Earth Central Command," she spoke rapidly into the microphone. "This is Kepler Mining Station Delta 7. We are under attack by hostile alien forces. 5 ships, unknown configuration. They are taking prisoners, not killing. I repeat, they are hunting us for sport and food. The species appears to be natural predators. Sending all tactical data now. She uploaded everything. The alien ship configurations, their weapons signatures, the fragments of translated communication, the security footage showing the raiders themselves. If humanity was going to face this threat, they needed every piece of information she could provide. An explosion rocked the communications center. The blast doors were being cut open, molten metal dripping to the floor as alien cutting tools sliced through reinforced steel. Sarah could hear them on the other side, clicking and chittering in their alien language. The translation computer continued its work. Small one still in the communication nest. Young female, probably good breeding stock. Take it alive. The younglings are always the most tender. Torres drew his sidearm, a standard-issue pulse pistol that looked pathetically small compared to the weapons the aliens carried. Get behind me, Sarah. The blast doors collapsed inward with a thunderous crash. 3 of the raiders stalked into the room, their eyes glowing with predatory hunger. Up close, they were even more terrifying, standing nearly 3 meters tall with muscles that rippled beneath their natural armor. Their claws clicked against their weapons as they surveyed their prey. The lead raider spoke, its voice a mixture of clicks and hisses that the computer struggled to translate. Drop the tiny weapon, soft flesh. Your resistance amuses us, but we grow hungry. Torres fired his pistol. The energy beam struck the alien's chest and dissipated harmlessly against its natural armor. The creature didn't even flinch. Pathetic, it sneered. Your species has no natural weapons, no armor, no speed. How did you ever survive long enough to reach the stars? One of its companions laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Perhaps their world has no true predators. They are like the fruit eaters on Thessian Prime, fat and slow and defenseless. The lead raider stepped forward, its claws extended. You will tell us about your world, young soft flesh. We wish to know how many of your kind await our harvest. Sarah found herself backed against the communication console, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the aliens could hear it. But even in her terror, her mind was working. There was something in their words, in their assumptions about humanity, that was fundamentally wrong. You think we're prey, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. You think we're defenseless. The alien tilted its elongated head. Are you not? We have studied your kind briefly. Soft skin, small teeth, no claws worthy of the name. You use tools because you are weak, not because you are strong. Sarah thought of the stories her grandfather had told her about the old days on Earth, about the long nights when humans huddled around fires, listening to the howls of things that wanted to eat them. About the millennia when her species had been prey, when everything with fangs and claws had seen them as nothing more than walking meat. Her grandfather had fought in the Titan Wars, where human soldiers had gone up against the enhanced super soldiers of the Martian Collective. He'd seen what humans could do when their backs were against the wall, when the veneer of civilization was stripped away and the ancient hunter awakened. You're right, she said softly. We are weak. We have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. She looked directly into the alien's glowing eyes. But you made one mistake. The raider leaned closer, curious despite itself. And what mistake is that, pray thing? Sarah smiled, and for the first time since the attack began, she felt calm. You assumed we were the prey species on our world. The alien's head tilted further, confusion evident in its posture. Explain. But before Sarah could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the alien fleet. The raider pressed a clawed hand to the communication device attached to its skull, listening to rapid-fire reports from its companions. What? It hissed. Impossible. Our sensors showed no other ships in this system. Sarah's smile grew wider. What you saw was one mining station with 63 people. What you didn't see was the patrol fleet that's been shadowing you since you entered this system. The alien's eyes widened in what might have been the first hint of concern. You lie, soft flesh. Our sensors would have detected. The lights went out. Emergency power failed. In the darkness, Sarah heard the distinctive whine of military-grade plasma drives firing at full burn. The station shook, but this time it wasn't from alien weapons. It was from the shock waves of a massive space battle erupting just outside. When the emergency lighting flickered back on, the alien raiders were no longer looking confident. Their head crests had flattened against their skulls, and their weapons were now held in defensive positions. "Patrol Fleet Zulu to mining station," a voice crackled through Sarah's emergency communicator. "This is Admiral Krishna aboard the ESS Huntress. Sorry we're late to the party. We've been tracking these bogies since they crossed into our space." The lead alien snarled and grabbed Sarah's arm with crushing force. "Call off your warriors, or we kill everyone on this station." But Sarah was no longer afraid. She looked into the creature's eyes and saw something that hadn't been there before: uncertainty. "You still don't understand, do you? You came here expecting to hunt sheep, but you just walked into a pack of wolves." Outside, the space battle raged. The human fleet had been waiting in the asteroid field beyond the system's edge, their ships hidden among the rocks and ice. They had watched the alien approach, studied their tactics, learned their weaknesses. And when the raiders had committed themselves to the attack on the mining station, the trap had been sprung. The alien holding Sarah's arm looked out at the battle and saw its companions' ships burning in the void. Human fighters swarmed around the larger alien vessels like angry hornets, their weapons designed not just to destroy, but to capture. This wasn't a rescue mission, Sarah realized. It was a research operation. Humanity wanted prisoners, wanted to learn everything they could about this new threat. "Impossible," the alien whispered. "Your people showed no signs of military capability. You are soft, weak, defenseless." Sarah pulled free of its loosened grip and straightened her uniform. "We are all of those things. But we learned long ago that the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. It's the one that's smart enough to make better teeth and claws than nature ever could." The alien raiders stood in the ruined communications center, surrounded by the sounds of their fleet being systematically destroyed by human forces. For the first time in their species' history, they were the ones being hunted. And as Sarah watched the fear creep into their predatory eyes, she couldn't help but think that they were finally beginning to understand what humanity really was. The holding cells aboard the ESS Huntress were originally designed for human prisoners, but they had been hastily modified to contain the alien raiders. Reinforced barriers made of battleship-grade polymers replaced the standard energy fields, and the environmental systems had been adjusted to accommodate the aliens' different atmospheric requirements. Despite these precautions, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were keeping wild animals in cages barely strong enough to hold them. She stood in the observation gallery, watching through one-way glass, as xenobiologist Dr. Elena Vasquez conducted her examination of the lead raider. The alien sat motionless on a specially reinforced chair, its 4 arms restrained by magnetic shackles that could have held a small spacecraft. Even bound, it radiated an aura of barely contained violence. "Fascinating," Dr. Vasquez murmured, running her scanner along the alien's chitinous exoskeleton. "The bone density is incredible, nearly 3 times that of a human. And these claw formations..." She gestured to the razor-sharp talons that extended from each of the creature's fingers. "Natural weapons that could slice through steel plate." Admiral Krishna stood beside Sarah, his weathered face grim as he studied the readings. At 62, He was old enough to remember the colony wars, when humanity had fought itself across a dozen star systems before finally learning to work together. He understood better than most what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. "Any word from the other prisoners?" Sarah asked. "The same story from all of them," Krishna replied. "They call themselves the Jactri. They've been raiding lesser species across this spiral arm for over 2 centuries. According to their leader, they've never encountered any significant resistance before." Through the glass, Dr. Vasquez was asking questions, while a military translator worked to decode the aliens' responses. The Jatri language was complex, filled with nuances that related to hunting, dominance, and the consumption of prey. It was the language of a species that had evolved as apex predators and never learned to think of themselves as anything else. "Tell me about the worlds you have raided," Dr. Vasquez said, her voice carefully neutral. The alien's head crest bristled with agitation. "Why do you wish to know, soft flesh? So you can warn your prey friends. The hunt worlds are numerous beyond counting. We have fed well on the Karathians, whose shell armor was no match for our claws. The Brenthi pleased us with their speed, though they could not run far enough to escape. The Zelani fought bravely before we cracked their bones." Sarah felt sick listening to the casual way the creature described the extinction of entire species. "How many worlds?" she asked through the intercom. The alien's multifaceted eyes fixed on the one-way mirror, as if it could see her despite the barriers. 37 worlds have fed the Jatri in the past generation alone. Some fought, some fled, some begged for mercy. None survived long enough to matter." Admiral Krishna's jaw tightened. "And they thought we'd be number 38. Dr. Vasquez consulted her notes. "What made you believe humans would be easy prey?" The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your bodies are weak. Your natural weapons are pathetic. You cannot run fast or fly high. You have no armor save what you build with your clever little hands." Its tone grew mocking. "We observed your mining station for cycles before attacking. We saw soft creatures moving slowly through metal corridors, completely helpless without their machines." "But you were wrong," Sarah said through the intercom. The alien's head swiveled toward her voice. "Were we? Your bodies are still soft. Your claws are still dull. You still cannot run faster than our hunt packs or see in the dark as we do. The only difference is that your pack leaders arrived with better tools." Dr. Vasquez exchanged glances with Admiral Krishna. They had been hoping to understand what had made this attack possible, what had made the Jatri so confident in their assessment of human vulnerability. But the alien's logic was sound from its perspective. Physically, humans were relatively weak compared to many species. Their natural weapons were limited, their armor non-existent. "Let me show you something," Admiral Krishna said, activating a holographic display in the interrogation room. Images began flowing across the air, scenes from Earth's history, from the prehistoric caves to the modern cities. The alien leaned forward, its predatory instincts engaged by the movement on the screen. "This is our homeworld," Krishna explained. "As you can see, we were not always the dominant species." The first images showed early humans huddled around fires while massive shapes moved in the darkness beyond. Cave bears, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, creatures that could have torn apart a human with ease. "For millions of years, we were prey," Krishna continued. "Everything with fangs and claws saw us as food. We couldn't outrun the hunters. We couldn't outfight them. So we learned to do something else." The images shifted, showing humans working together, hunting in coordinated groups, using tools, building shelters, taming fire. The alien watched with growing interest as it saw how these weak, soft creatures had somehow managed to survive in a world full of monsters. "We learned to think," Sarah said from the observation deck. "We learned to plan. And most importantly, We learned that the only way to survive as individuals was to work together as a group. The hologram showed the progression of human civilization, the development of agriculture, the rise of cities, the discovery of writing and mathematics and science. But interwoven with these achievements were images of warfare, of humans fighting against overwhelming odds, of determination in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. The alien shifted uncomfortably. Your species wars against itself. This shows weakness, not strength. Does it? Krishna asked. Or does it show that we've been practicing? That we've been testing ourselves against the only opponents clever enough to challenge us? The images now showed modern human achievements. Starships that could cross the galaxy, weapons that could crack planets, cities that floated among the clouds. But behind every technological marvel was the same driving force, the need to survive, to protect, to ensure that humanity would never again be helpless prey. You made an error in your assessment, Dr. Vasquez said gently. You looked at our bodies and saw weakness, but you didn't look at our minds. The alien's claws scraped against its restraints. Cleverness is not strength. Tools can be broken. Machines can be destroyed. But ideas can't, Sarah said. Knowledge can't. And the will to survive certainly can't. Admiral Krishna gestured, and the hologram shifted again. This time it showed the recent battle, the human fleet emerging from the asteroid field with perfect timing and coordination, their weapons precisely targeted to disable rather than destroy, their tactics adjusted in real time based on alien responses. We've been watching your species for months, Krishna explained, ever since our long-range sensors detected your ships entering the outer system. We studied your attack patterns, your technology, your behavior. We knew you were coming long before you knew we existed. The alien's head crest flattened against its skull. Impossible. Our stealth systems are perfect. No prey species has ever detected us before engagement. That's because the species you've been hunting thought like prey, Sarah said. They waited for you to reveal yourselves before reacting. But humans? We've been predators for a very long time. We know how to hunt hunters. Dr. Vasquez pulled up another display, this one showing the wreckage of the Jatri fleet. All 5 ships had been captured or disabled, their crews taken prisoner. Not a single human vessel had been lost in the engagement. Your weapons were impressive, she noted clinically. But they were designed to terrorize and overwhelm lesser species. Against an enemy that expected attack, that had prepared countermeasures, they were simply inadequate. The alien stared at the images of its destroyed fleet with something that might have been shock. My pack brothers, alive, Krishna assured it. All of them. We don't kill prisoners when we can avoid it. That's another difference between us and you. Why? The alien demanded. We would have eaten your crew. We would have taken your younglings as breeding stock. Why show mercy to enemies? Sarah found herself answering before she could think. Because we used to be prey. We remember what it felt like to be helpless, to be hunted, to watch our families taken by creatures that saw us as nothing more than meat. We remember, and we chose to be better. The alien fell silent, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the lights of the interrogation room. For the first time since its capture, it seemed to be thinking rather than simply reacting with predatory aggression. You speak of mercy, it said finally. But you destroyed our ships. You captured our hunt packs. You have caged us like prey beasts. Where is the mercy in this? Admiral Krishna leaned forward. The mercy is that you're still alive to ask that question. The mercy is that we're trying to understand you instead of simply exterminating you as a threat. The mercy is that we're giving you a chance to change. Change? The alien's voice carried a note of confusion. What must we change? We are Jatri. We are hunters. This is our nature. Nature can evolve. Dr. Vasquez said. Behavior can be learned. Your species chose to become raiders, to prey on others. But choice implies that you could have chosen differently. Sarah watched the alien's face through the one-way glass. There was something shifting in its expression, something that suggested a mind grappling with concepts it had never been forced to consider before. The Jatri had been apex predators for so long that they had never had to question their place in the universe. They had never had to consider that there might be something higher than them on the food chain. "What happens to us now?" the alien asked, its voice smaller than it had been before. "That depends," Krishna replied. "On you, on your people, on whether you're capable of learning that there are alternatives to extinction." The alien's claws retracted slightly. "Alternatives? We could simply destroy your homeworld," Krishna said matter-of-factly. "Our ships are faster than yours, our weapons more powerful, our tactics superior. We could hunt down every Jatri in the galaxy and eliminate your species entirely. It would be easier than what we're offering." "Which is?" "A chance to join the galactic community as partners instead of predators. To use your skills for exploration and protection instead of raiding and murder. To discover that being strong doesn't require making others weak." The alien was quiet for a long moment. "And if we refuse?" Admiral Krishna's expression didn't change. "Then we'll do what predators do to other predators that threaten their territory. We'll remove the threat permanently." Sarah saw the alien's whole body tense as the implications sank in. For the first time in its species' history, a Jatri was being offered a choice between adaptation and extinction. And for the first time, it was beginning to understand that the creatures they had dismissed as weak prey were actually something far more dangerous. "You would hunt us," the alien said, and there was something like respect in its voice, "as we hunted others." "No," Sarah said through the intercom. "We would do it much more efficiently, because unlike you, we don't hunt for sport or food or entertainment. We hunt to protect, and there's nothing more dangerous than a protector that's been pushed too far." The alien looked up at the ceiling, as if trying to see through the metal and into the stars beyond. "Our legends speak of the first hunters, the ancient ones who taught our ancestors to kill and feed and grow strong. They said that one day we would meet prey that fought back, and that would be the test of our worthiness." "And?" Dr. Vasquez prompted. "They said that if we failed the test, if we proved unworthy of the hunt, then we would become the prey ourselves." The alien's voice was barely above a whisper. "I thought they were just stories to frighten younglings. I never believed we could fail." Admiral Krishna stood up. "You haven't failed yet. But you're going to have to choose what kind of species you want to be, and you're going to have to choose quickly." As they left the interrogation room, Sarah found herself thinking about the alien's words. Stories to frighten younglings. Every species seemed to have them. Tales of things that lurked in the dark. Monsters that punished the wicked, predators that hunted the hunters. Perhaps those stories served a purpose beyond simple fear. Perhaps they were warnings, reminders that no matter how strong a species became, there was always something stronger out there in the dark. The question was whether the Jatri would be wise enough to heed those warnings before it was too late. The conference room aboard the ESS Huntress had been configured for an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 12 different species sat around the curved table, their forms ranging from the crystalline structures of the ethereal collective to the serpentine coils of the Naga Confederation. Each of them had received the same emergency transmission from Admiral Krishna, a meeting to discuss the Jatri threat and humanity's response to it. Sarah Chen stood at the main display, no longer the frightened communications specialist who had faced down alien raiders 3 weeks ago. Her new uniform bore the insignia of a diplomatic attaché, a field promotion that still felt surreal. But her experience as the first human to directly confront the Jactri had made her invaluable to the ongoing negotiations. "The situation is simple," Admiral Krishna was saying to the assembled delegates. "The Jactri have been systematically hunting and destroying civilizations across this spiral arm for over 2 centuries. They've obliterated at least 37 species that we know of, possibly more." The Karathian ambassador, one of the few survivors of his people's near extinction, clicked his mandibles nervously. "We attempted to warn the Galactic Council years ago, but our evidence was dismissed as hysteria from a dying species." "Because the Jatri were careful," added Dr. Vasquez, who had joined the meeting after spending weeks studying the captured aliens. "They never left survivors who could provide concrete proof. They never attacked worlds with significant technological capabilities. They were surgical in their selection of prey." The ethereal representative, whose voice came through harmonic resonance, shimmered with agitation. "Then how did humans detect them? Your species is relatively new to interstellar travel. Your technology should not have been sufficient to penetrate their stealth capabilities." Sarah stepped forward. "With respect, Delegate, you're making the same mistake the Jatri made. You're measuring us by our technology instead of our nature." She activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the local spiral arm. Red markers indicated the locations of Jatri raids, while blue markers showed current human colonies and patrol routes. "For the past 5 years, human exploration fleets have been reporting anomalies in deep space," Sarah explained. "Ships that appeared on sensors for brief moments before vanishing. Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Entire systems where the radio chatter suddenly went silent." The Naga representative coiled tighter around his perch. "We detected similar phenomena, but our scientists concluded they were natural celestial events." "Because you weren't looking for patterns the way predators do," Admiral Krishna said. "You were thinking like prey animals, reacting to immediate threats instead of tracking potential hunters." Sarah highlighted a series of connected routes on the display. "When we plotted all the anomalies together, we saw the hunting pattern. The Jatri were following established trade routes, stalking colonies that had become isolated from their parent civilizations. They were patient, methodical, and they always struck when their targets were most vulnerable." The crystalline delegate's structure pulsed with understanding. "You were tracking the hunters themselves." "Exactly. And once we identified their pattern, we started preparing. Every human outpost, every mining station, every exploration vessel became part of an early warning network. When the Jatri finally decided to attack what they thought was an isolated target, they walked into a trap that had been months in the making." Dr. Vasquez brought up medical scans from the captured Jatri. "But the real revelation came when we began studying their psychology. The Jatri don't just hunt for food or resources. They hunt because their entire cultural identity is built around the concept of being apex predators. They've never encountered serious resistance because they've never attacked anything that could fight back effectively." The Karathian ambassador spoke up. "But humans did fight back. Not just survived, but won decisively. How is this possible? Your species has no natural armor, no enhanced speed, no biological weapons." Sarah smiled grimly. "Because we've been apex predators longer than any of you realize. Not because of what we are, but because of where we came from." She changed the holographic display to show Earth, rotating slowly in space. It looked peaceful from orbit, a blue and green marble suspended against the black. But as the image zoomed in, the reality became clear. Vast oceans filled with creatures that could swallow starships whole. Jungles where every plant and animal seemed designed to kill anything that ventured too close. Mountain ranges where the weather alone could crush a city. Deserts where the sun could bake metal to melting point. Polar regions where the cold could freeze atmosphere solid. "This is our home world," Sarah said, "and every single ecosystem on it was actively trying to kill us for millions of years. The assembled delegates stared at the images in growing horror. The Naga representative actually recoiled as the display showed great white sharks prowling Earth's oceans, their rows of teeth gleaming in the underwater light. "Impossible," breathed the ethereal delegate. "No sapient species could have evolved in such conditions." "We didn't just evolve in those conditions," Admiral Krishna said. "We thrived in them, because Earth didn't just produce one apex predator. It produced thousands of them, all competing for the same resources, all trying to survive in an environment where everything was prey to something else." Dr. Vasquez added her own analysis. "What makes humans unique isn't that we became predators. It's that we became predators while retaining the memories and instincts of prey. We know what it's like to be hunted because we spent millennia being hunted. That's why we're so good at it now." The display shifted to show various Earth predators: lions stalking gazelles across the African savanna, wolves hunting in coordinated packs, eagles diving from impossible heights to snatch prey in their talons. But interspersed with these images were humans, early humans with stone tools, bringing down mammoths that weighed 50 times what they did. "We learned to hunt the hunters," Sarah explained. "We studied their patterns, anticipated their moves, set traps that turned their own strength against them. And when we finally left Earth and reached the stars, we brought those instincts with us." The Carathian ambassador clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "You're saying that humans are, what, super predators?" "We're saying that humans are something that shouldn't exist," Admiral Krishna replied. "A species that combines the survival instincts of prey with the hunting capabilities of apex predators. We think like the hunted, but we fight like the hunters." Sarah brought up the tactical analysis of the battle with the Zatri. "Look at how we approached the threat. We didn't try to match their physical capabilities or their technology. Instead, we used their own predatory nature against them. We let them think they had found easy prey, then revealed that the prey was actually the trap." The display showed the positioning of human ships during the battle, how they had used the asteroid field for concealment, how they had coordinated their attack to maximize psychological impact while minimizing casualties. The Jatri expected us to react like prey, to panic, to run, to fight desperately and ineffectively. Instead, we responded like predators who had found other predators in our territory. We eliminated the threat efficiently and completely. Dr. Vasquez activated a new set of readings. But perhaps most importantly, we did something no other species has ever attempted with captured Jatri. We tried to communicate with them, to understand them, to offer them alternatives to extinction. The lead Jatri was brought into the conference room under heavy guard. The alien had requested this meeting after 2 weeks of imprisonment, claiming it had something important to say to the gathered delegates. Its chitinous armor had been damaged in the capture, and its predatory confidence had been replaced by something resembling respect. "I speak for the hunt masters of Zatri Prime," the alien announced, its voice translated through the universal communication system. "We have considered the humans' offer. We have studied their nature. We have reached a conclusion." The conference room fell silent. The fate of potentially billions of Jatri hung on whatever this creature was about to say. "For 7 generations, my people have hunted the weak," the alien continued. "We believed that strength came from the ability to kill and consume others. We believed that we were the ultimate predators in this galaxy." Its multifaceted eyes fixed on Sarah. "We were wrong." The Carathian ambassador leaned forward. "What have you discovered?" "Humans are not prey," the alien said simply. "They are not predators as we understand them. They are something else entirely. They are what our oldest legends called the final hunters, the ones who hunt not for food or territory or dominance, but for something greater." Admiral Krishna frowned. "What do you mean?" The alien's head crest flattened in what Dr. Vasquez had learned was a gesture of submission. "They hunt to protect. They kill only to preserve life. They show mercy to enemies who would have shown them none." It paused, as if struggling with concepts foreign to its nature. They are apex predators who have evolved beyond the need to prey upon others. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Your legend spoke of this? The first hunters who taught us to kill also told us that the hunt would end one day, that we would meet prey that was not prey, predators that were not predators, and when that day came, we would have to choose between evolution and extinction. The alien looked around the conference room, taking in the representatives of species that its people had considered nothing more than potential prey. You offer us the chance to become something more than killers, to use our abilities for protection instead of destruction, to join a community where strength comes from cooperation, not domination. The ethereal delegate shimmered with anticipation. And your decision? The Zatri accept, the alien said. We choose evolution. The conference room erupted in a mixture of relief and amazement. Delegates who had come expecting to discuss military action against an implacable enemy instead found themselves witnessing something unprecedented, the voluntary transformation of a predatory species. But Sarah found herself thinking about the implications beyond this single moment. If humans could convince the Zatri to abandon their predatory nature, what did that say about humanity's role in the galaxy? What did it mean to be apex predators who had evolved beyond the need for prey? Admiral Krishna stood up, his expression grave, despite the positive outcome. There's something else we need to discuss. The Zatri weren't the only predatory species out there. Our long-range sensors have detected at least 3 other hunter fleets operating in distant spiral arms. The celebrations died down as the reality sank in. The Zatri had been just one threat among many. Across the galaxy, other predator species were still hunting, still consuming entire civilizations. Then we hunt them too, Sarah said quietly, and every delegate turned to look at her. We track them down, study their patterns, learn their weaknesses, and we give them the same choice we gave the Zatri: evolve or become extinct. The Karathian ambassador clicked his mandibles nervously. You speak of hunting beings that have terrorized the galaxy for centuries. This is not a task for diplomats or explorers. Sarah looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. No, it's not. It's a task for predators. For the kind of predators that spent millions of years learning how to survive on a world that wanted nothing more than to kill them. The kind of predators that learned mercy by remembering what it felt like to be prey. Admiral Krishna nodded slowly. Sarah's right. This is what we are. This is what we've always been. Not conquerors or destroyers, but protectors. The apex predators of the galaxy, standing between civilization and the things that hunt in the dark. The reformed Zatri spoke up one final time. The legends say that the final hunters would not rest until all hunting was done, until every predator had chosen evolution or extinction, until the weak were safe from the strong. Sarah smiled grimly. Then I guess we'd better get started. As the conference ended, and the delegates began making preparations for the largest coordinated military campaign in galactic history. Sarah found herself thinking about the young communications specialist who had faced down alien raiders just weeks ago. That person seemed like a stranger now, someone who had existed before she understood what humanity really was. They weren't the helpless prey that aliens had expected to find. They weren't even the clever tool users that most species recognized them as. They were something far more dangerous and far more wonderful. Predators who had learned to hunt for justice instead of survival, who had retained their killer instincts while developing their protective ones. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth's young recruit had tried to tell her captors in that communications center. When you mock the prey, you never know what kind of predator might be listening. And humanity had been listening for a very long time. Patient as only a true hunter could be, waiting for the moment when the real hunt would begin. The aliens had been right about one thing. They had found humanity's world. They had encountered its predator. They just hadn't understood until it was too late that they were looking at the most dangerous hunter the galaxy had ever produced, one that chose not to hunt until something threatened the herd it had sworn to protect.